All right, well, let's get started. Awesome. Welcome everybody to our Zoom meeting, our workshop. And before we get started, allow me to introduce someone whose presence is nothing short than electrifying. We are in midst of greatness, fellow athletes. Our guest tonight is the epitome of endurance, resilience, and strength. Hold on to your seats as I welcome Gretchen James. Now, I want to point out a picture for you. Imagine someone who's conquered 9 Ironman, 11 70.3 half Ironmans, 1 50-miler, a grueling 100-miler, the Herculean Moab 240, and staggering 30 marathons. But wait, the accolades don't stop there. With over 35 podium finishes, including 4 marathons, 3 in the half Ironman, she's an undisputed champion. But here's the magic. Amidst the clattering medals and the roaring cheers, Gretchen's story transcends the racing world. She is not only a titan in endurance sports, but also a superhero in daily life. Yes, my friend, Gretchen is a phenomenal working mom, balancing career, motherhood, and this incredible athletic journey is a triathlon on its own. Having dipped her toes in racing in her 30s after swimming in high school and college, she has shown us that it's never too late to chase your dreams. And as she embraces her 50th birthday this summer, her journey is a beacon for each of us. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and extend our tremendous welcome to a true warrior and working mom, a legend, Gretchen James. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, tell us a little bit of your story and we'll get right into the workshop.
Okay. Well, I am really happy to be able to kind of share some of the things that I've learned over the years of racing and doing endurance things. The focus of tonight is endurance and some of the nutritional aspects of it and training. And I think although I wing a lot of things when I'm racing and training, I also know some things that are really important that I've learned along the way. And a lot of what I've learned, I think, is partly because I work in medicine and I really am interested in exercise science and cardiac science. And I think from that perspective, I have some things to share that I think a lot of people make mistakes with nutrition, and I hope to share some of those with you tonight.
Awesome. So, I look forward to it.
I guess like as people are coming on to this, I would love it if they would tell me what they're training for. I understand a lot of people are training for a marathon. Right now, I'm training for an Ironman, and so I've invited some of my Ironman folks to join too. It doesn't look like very many people have joined yet, but I'll try to definitely address nutrition for the marathon distance, and I will also try to do sort of an Ironman distance as well. And I know other people might be looking on later after this is recorded.
Yes. Yeah, I know that some of my training partners do the track workout tonight, and they were like, "Oh, please record it for us. We want to hear it."
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of them are looking forward to the recording.
Okay.
Oh, there's a comment. Maura says, "One of my goals is to run a 5K."
In under 20 minutes.
Yes.
That's a good goal. The nutrition for that is a little bit shorter than the endurance distance, but that is a great goal. Nice. Oh, great. California. I was doing California International Marathon or the Ironman, and I was in a bus with my wetsuit on when it got canceled for the first year. So, and last year it was super windy. I did not do it last year, but I hope that you have perfect weather because it's supposed to be a really fast course when everything goes well. Yeah. So where do you want to start?
Why don't we start in the nutrition part, or actually tell us your story first, kind of like your journey from when you started to where you are now.
Well, for my very first Ironman, I actually, the year before my first Ironman, I went to Ironman and I was like, I just want to sign up for this race. I know it's in a couple of days. And like, they were like, that would be a really bad idea. And in retrospect, I kind of wish I had done it and just sort of figured it out. But anyway, so I did train for my first one. I did Troika first, which was a fairly traditional half Ironman in town. And then the next year I did the full Ironman with a group of friends that are just solid friends still, because we all kind of trained together. We met each other through it. And Heidi and Heather LaFreak, Phil Sandifer, I don't know, there was just a big group of people. And so I just fell in love with it. And I just met people that are still my friends today. And that was in 2006. I did my first one. And then I did my second one right after I had my twins, and I breastfed them along the way. That was kind of a crazy thing to do, but I tend to do that kind of thing. And then I've done 9 Ironmans. I did Alaska last year and Coeur d'Alene a couple of years ago. And I'm hoping to possibly, if things go well, qualify for Kona this year. That's the one world distance I haven't done. I did Olympic distance worlds in New Zealand, and I did the 70.3 one recently, or a while back, and I recently qualified for it, but I didn't take a spot. So yeah, I don't know. And then I really got into ultra marathons right as my husband passed away. And that was kind of my grief journey for sure, getting into ultras. I had a really good friend, or 2 friends, that were into them, and they kind of I'd tug along, and ended up doing a 50, and then 3 100s, and then the Moab 240. And that race started on the 2nd anniversary of my husband's death. And it was my grief process going through that. And I fell in love with ultras. It was something I never thought I was ever going to do. I'd like done marathons and triathlons. I was like, people would ask me, are you going to do an ultra? I was like, no, why would I run that long? And it's a lot different than what you think it is. I do love marathons, but in a lot of ways, marathons are kind of harder from my perspective, because you perceive that you're going fast all the time. And with an ultra, you're encouraged to walk up hills and to run down hills. And it's a different sport a little bit. I mean, obviously it's still running, but I really like it. Yeah. But the nutrition aspect of all of those distances, from a 5K to a half marathon to a marathon, I mean, they're just really, really different. For a half marathon, I have maybe a gel or some sort of energy, like perpetuum or something, before I run. And then I take like 1 gel around maybe mile 10, and that's it. It's pretty simple. For a marathon, it's a little bit more than that. And then you get to the full Ironman distance, which I think is the trickiest of all of the races I've done for figuring out nutrition, even more so than doing Moab 240, which I did run into some problems with Moab 240 for sure. But
a little more, because I'm very curious about that.
What? Say that again.
The 240, the Moab, what do you call it? Moab 240?
Moab 240. It's 240-mile run.
240 miles. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, you have just about 5 days to complete it. And some people do it without stopping to sleep until they absolutely have to. I had a very different strategy, because I feel like sleep is extremely important. There's a lot of science to support that. And so I really try to build in like 6 hours or so of sleep every night, and hang out with my girlfriends, and we had fun. One night we had like a margarita night, and slept and then started again. So but that's not how everybody does that kind of race. But for that race, it was really hot some of the days, especially the first day. And I kind of developed this thing that I've never seen anybody else do, but I froze my Perpetuum in my backpack and carried a block of ice as it melted. And I really hydrated well that first day when it was super hot. And then I just kind of ate whatever normal food was there. And one thing that was normal was a hamburger, and I don't eat hamburgers very often. And so I like took one and it's really important to just eat little bits, as you go, but eat a lot of, a lot. So anyway, I really love these hamburgers, and I kept eating these hamburgers at the aid station. And then I think it was the third day, I was morning and I came into an aid station at like 11 and I was meeting my girlfriends, and one of them was going to run with me, but I got there faster than they expected, and they had gotten me a hamburger, and I sat down and I just scarfed the whole thing down. I may have even two. And anyway, it was a disaster because my guts shut down and I was just, I was puking. It wasn't good, but that kind of thing happens in a race that long, and you just have to work through it.
So that's kind of your advice if you're going to do something like that, is to take it more often, not all at once. So
Definitely. Yeah.
chunk it up. Great. So what about just regular nutrition on everyday, what you eat on an everyday?
So I understood a lot of people are interested in kind of losing weight as they develop their running. I think that happens naturally. I think you can burn fat in any zone that you're running at, but at zone 2 type activities, you definitely are burning more fat without, overexerting yourself. But, even in zone 3, as you start burning other forms of energy, carbohydrates more that are short acting, you can continue to burn fat. I really recommend intermittent fasting, and I even do this for myself. I don't perceive that I need to lose weight necessarily, but I think it teaches your body to efficiently use fat. And intermittent fasting is a process where you eat in a shorter period of time during the day. So say from 11 until 7 p.m. So like 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's the only window that you eat. And it's really important not to have any kind of carbohydrate during that whole other time, because our body uses carbohydrates first. It's like a fast, easy energy. And if you're really wanting to burn fat, what you're wanting to do is teach your body to burn fat. And a lot of zone 2 training helps with that, and more kind of endurance activities. And then also trying that intermittent fasting. So, yeah.
And Morris Grant was asking, what is your eating window when doing an Ironman? We're training, like you're getting close to the Ironman, I think, what he means, or close to, what are your windows of?
Oh, yeah, I probably don't do intermittent fasting at this point, 2 weeks before Ironman, because I'm 10 days from it, and I don't do that.
Just trying to get as much.
Yeah, but I think, well, I have some slideshows that I might share with you guys about Ironman, and it relates to marathons too, I think, and just sort of the importance of eating not just carbohydrates. I feel like protein and fat are important to include in that, in what we consume during those kinds of races, because carbohydrates, if you take a gel, you fairly quickly feel like better, right? And then you crash, and then you just go on this roller coaster. And so I think, like, if your body knows how to use fat and you have some protein in there too, there's this more even keeled amount of energy that's being consumed, and then the carbohydrate swings aren't so big. You definitely need carbohydrates, and that's the easiest thing to process when your gut isn't, working very well. But I definitely feel like it's important to have a little bit of protein and fat too, in what you're consuming before a race, and then even during certain races. I would say during a marathon, I probably don't take any protein. I just use gels. But I think for longer things like a 70.3 ultra Ironman, it's important to have some protein throughout the day until you maybe can't consume it anymore because your gut's kind of shutting down.
For marathons, have you ever tried just a boiled potato or something that's not gels for carbohydrate?
I have not for a marathon, but I do really love boiled potatoes or really love mashed potatoes for ultras. I would say that's one of my most favorite things to eat in a carbohydrate form is mashed potatoes. It's really, really easy to digest, easy to go down. But a lot of people do like the boiled potatoes. That's fine. I prefer the mashed ones. Yeah, with a little bit of flavor. They actually make them like in a package, like a goo thing. I don't know. I don't remember what the brand is, but yeah, they make them that way, and then they're super yummy, and there's different flavors, and yeah. Anyway.
And I know on some of the marathons, they actually hand them out. I think I did St. Joe's. And
Oh, really?
the actual potato.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
And
good.
I think you might have answered this question then. Morris is asking this, what is your window of intermittent fasting just when you are doing intermittent fasting?
Yeah, that 11 to 7 is pretty much what I try to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first couple of days are kind of hard for some people, like because I work in cardiology, so I talk about this all the time. And I always say, the first couple of days are kind of weird because you're really focused on it. But once it becomes kind of the way that you do things, it's really not that hard to do. And a lot of people that have a lot of extra adipose, especially around their waist, tend to lose that fairly quickly if they keep at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been practicing that too. And it feels like it's just a habit. You're not really hungry when you break that fasting. You're just bored, or you get something that you're trying to work on and you're not even thinking, and you reach for the refrigerator and eating stuff, but it's not really out of I'm hungry, I need to eat. You're just it's a habit.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you okay if I share my screen and just go through those slides pretty quickly? I have some slides that I put together about kind of how I think scientifically about nutrition for these races. So let me see if I can share my screen. See if I can get it to work. Sophia, do you want to come over? Just make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah. Where's my PowerPoint? Sorry, I've got a lot of screens open for some reason. Where is it? It was on there somewhere.
I think if you, you don't have,
Just go back
go
to
to here. Then
Sometimes the bar goes above and sometimes it's on the bottom.
Can you see it now?
No, not yet.
are you sure you're sharing your screen?
Well,
Make sure you hit the share screen, the green button.
it's down at the bottom.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay. That's what came up when I did share screen.
We get to click one of
PowerPoint
these.
unknown. Got it?
And you also have to make sure you open your window before you share the screen.
Okay, I've got a lot of screens.
This
open.
would be helpful if you didn't have as many screens on.
Well, I just didn't need to.
Very good.
Okay, can you see the PowerPoint now?
No.
No?
Okay, how about we X out of some of the.
Sorry. Let's see. Okay.
Go back to the Zoom.
How do I do that? This.
No, that's just your. I don't know how to do math.
Okay. Well,
Oh,
I can just talk through.
did
them.
you exit out?
No, I did not. It's right there. Can you still see me, Victor?
I'm seeing you, but I'm not seeing your screen.
Okay.
You said you did hit share screen?
Yeah, I did.
Hmm. Let me,
Sophia, I think I know what's the problem.
That's gallery mode.
Okay, well, let me just talk through it then. It's fine.
Yeah.
For my-
Put
I don't know
together
how
a
to
really
do
good
that.
slideshow, but doesn't seem to be working. So Victor asked me to talk about kind of 3 nutrition tips, and I put together some information which is kind of helpful for me, and maybe we can share the slideshow later. Prepare and practice for your nutrition is really important. To be scientific about your nutrition. And to me, it is just as much about what you do the 2 or 3 days before the race as what you do during the race is what's important. And so, oh, and then I'm an Ultra Aspire athlete, and I have a code to share with you guys for 15% off on all Ultra Aspire backpacks or packs and lights and such. They're such a great team, and I've really enjoyed being part of that athlete team. And there are a lot of ultra runners for the most part, some marathon distances as well, but a lot of trail. So I kind of put together the caloric consumption for endurance events that is kind of important to remember. So when you're calculating your caloric need during a marathon or an ultra or an Ironman, it's important to know men's daily caloric average is about 2,500. For women, it's about 2,000. Sodium is about 2,200. And I think sodium is really an important component to this. I think a lot of people take salt tabs at the wrong time, and it causes a lot of GI distress. So I want to address that. Let's see, I need to move
it up. We can see it now.
Oh, you can? Okay. I did not do anything to make that happen, but
I
great.
did it from my side, from the
Oh, okay.
So now you can see
the do's and don'ts. Is that the one you're talking about?
Oh, I don't have do's and don'ts. I have caloric use during endurance events. But anyway, I'll get to the do's and don'ts. That's the most important part. So for like a 70.3 for men, you use about it's 5,000 calories plus your 1,200 calories in that same amount of time. So you're looking at 6,200 calories for a woman, about 5,000 calories. For a marathon, for a full Ironman, for a man is probably about almost 9,000. For a woman is probably closer to 7.5. For a marathon, probably a little over 2,000 for a man and 2,000 for a woman. And then one of the rules of thumbs is about 400 to 500 calories per hour for most endurance events. So that kind of rings through. And when you calculate what you're going to carry with you, it's important to sort of kind of think about how many calories per hour you need. So if you're making some sort of a energy mix, you want to keep that in mind and then supplement it with whatever you need or whatever you want to eat to keep you going at 500 per hour, and then the sodium as well. And of course, the longer your event, the more calories you're going to use, the hotter the day, the more sodium you're going to need, and the more fluids you're going to need. So you kind of have to think about what the race day weather is going to be like as well. If you're cold, you use more calories than you think you do, but you don't need as much fluid because you're not sweating as much, right? So, in that kind of situation, you want more calories and less fluid. And in a situation where you're going to be drinking a lot more fluid because you're going to be really thirsty, you might want you might not want it to be as concentrated. So just things to really think about. let's see, now I am, okay. So then I kind of put together some nutrition products that I have used in the past. I have this cute picture of me with a Gatorade sponsored. I was sponsored by Gatorade when Gatorade started making Gatorade Endurance, and I got dropped from Gatorade when, after about being a Gatorade athlete for a couple of years, and they came out with Gatorade Endurance, and they sent us all this stuff, and I tried it, and I was like, this tastes terrible. I do not like it. It makes me feel sick. But it's really high in sodium, and so I don't sweat very much, and a lot of people do, and so I think that I do not get rid of as much sodium or need as much sodium as some people do. And so I'm telling you what I do and what I've tried, but every athlete has to, try what they think is going to work and then try it a lot. And I think that's, I know what I need, but everybody has to figure it out for themselves. So I was talking about the importance of Perpetuum versus protein, and I like Perpetuum because it has protein. And here I've talked about the number of calories per scoop, and I made a little chart, and you can look at it later. And the big difference between something like Perpetuum or some of these energy companies that make it's tailored to you type of product. You can put fat and protein into the drink. And for me, that's what works best. I tried EFS one time because I had a professional athlete tell me how much greater it is, and you should really try this. And I completely bonked. I really struggled because I think it just didn't have the calories that I needed in it from fat and protein. And then I think your body kind of gets used to what you use as well. And then Perpetuum is 85 grams of sodium, whereas Tailwind and Gatorade Endurance all have nearly 300 milligrams of sodium per serving, like a 12-ounce serving. And it's just a lot more. Some of the other things that I like are honey stingers because they're really natural. It's mostly just honey, and it's 90 calories, and you get really kind of fast acting carbohydrates, and there's some sodium in those as well. And I like the Stinger Chews. I learned about Stinger Chews in Zion. I had somebody, I was totally bonking and just struggling, and I was like falling asleep, and this guy gave me some Stinger Chews, and I've been hooked ever since. I think they're a great product. But anyway, so you have to find out what you like, and you have to find out how they all go together, what you can eat during a race or whatever race it is that you're doing. And then I have something for Ironman, like my whole prep, and I can pass this out. It's sort of exactly what I do for how many scoops and how many calories go into what I eat before the race in my morning bag, what I put on my bike, and special needs. For me, having something cold makes a huge difference in my ability to drink it. I know that sounds crazy, and maybe other people don't have that problem, but I have always, since day one, frozen my bike special needs drinks. And they are cold, but not frozen usually when I put them on my bike. And I have found that to be just a real treat when you start that second loop on your bike. I really like that when I was doing really hot endurance stuff too, just to have something cold I feel like it keeps your body temperature down, and it's just easier to drink. So there's a couple of things that I feel are really important for athletes to understand. One is about caffeine. I think caffeine and caffeine gels are fine and good later in a race. I think they're a really bad idea to take a lot of caffeine before a race starts, and even in the beginning of a really long endurance race. Now, if you're doing a 5K, that's totally fine. If you're doing a half marathon, probably fine too. But your body's going to crash from the caffeine. But before it even crashes, what's going to happen is it jacks up your heart rate. your blood pressure will go up too. So your heart rate and blood pressure go up. Well, when you start a race, you are already going to have a high heart rate because you're starting this thing that's super exciting and everybody's kind of into it. And it's just natural to have a higher heart rate. So you don't want to have a higher heart rate than you need to have. I'm a firm believer in keeping your heart rate below zone 3 for long endurance events as much as possible, and even zone 2 for a long endurance events. So, and I really do look at my heart rate, and I will slow down for long endurance events, even if I feel good based on my heart rate. If I don't, I know that the lactic acid is going to just build up in my muscles, and eventually, and I can tell you where it's going to happen in every distance, it will catch up to me, and then it's not fun. It makes it really hard to keep going, and you just can't get rid of it. So I shy away from taking caffeine gels until in a marathon, maybe like the last 6 miles for my last one, or for half Ironmans, not until probably the run. And then, but I actually, the last one I did, I didn't even have any caffeine. And then, so I would maybe introduce them on the second loop of the bike, and then as you need them during the run, if you really feel fatigued. A funny thing on Ironman is like everybody talked about Coke, and I don't usually drink a whole lot of soda, and Coke is like something the last probably 5 or 6 years that I've really loved during an Ironman. But anyway, so we figure out things, and then you find things that you want and that kind of thing that are different. So then I'll share that with you. And I have a slide about ultras. I think I kind of already talked about that a bit. I mostly eat whatever's at the aid stations, and I think it's kind of fun to have something different at every aid station, and talk to the people that are making it and thank them and whatever. And then I have a lot of runner friends and triathlete friends that are vegan, and there's lots of vegan protein options as well, and I think most aid stations always have that too. So anyway, I never used to eat bacon ever, but during these ultras, they always have bacon. And my girlfriend's like, you gotta have the bacon. Even my friend that's a vegan, she's like, oh yeah, we gotta have the bacon. So anyway, so it's kind of a tradition to actually have bacon, but I'll tell you the hamburger thing, don't do too many hamburgers and don't eat them too fast.
A little bit about the caffeine, because the other thing that it's diuretic, isn't it? You can accelerate, because that's been my experience with some of the overloading caffeine. I've had some very, very bad experience. And just in my last marathon, I kind of took a lot of cold medicine because I had a cold. So I was taking cold medicine the whole week. And, it was the Windermere Marathon. And I totally bonked. I had to go to the hospital with dehydration.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Okay. Yes. Caffeine for sure. It causes dehydration. It's a diuretic. It gets rid of fluid. So it jacks up your heart rate, gets rid of fluid. Those are two keys to endurance races that are, like you don't want to do early on a race. Now, at the end of a race, that's a different story. And I do use caffeine at the end of a race, but not in the beginning of a race.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Question from more is regarding breathing. Do you practice nose breathing while racing? Or
I don't know. I don't practice any. I don't.
Because
That's not something I think about ever.
doesn't take very long miles before you have to get air whatever which way you can. Because I've tried it, because I've had where my throat gets really dry.
Oh,
But
yeah.
what if I just inhale through my nose? But it's hard because I feel like I need
More air.
at the end of the race. Definitely, I'm doing just like getting air with on all mouth and nose. But it is difficult when I've tried it. But I know I've heard, and maybe it's shorter racers. I've heard they've done that or do it well. maybe it's something that some athletes can practice to do. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they do. I don't think about that, but maybe I will someday. I don't know. No. So I have a slide that I kind of like about the do's and don'ts. The don'ts, I talked about caffeine.
You want me to put it up?
What?
Yeah, but I couldn't see the chat. I can put it up, the one that says.
Oh, you can't see. Oh, you can, okay.
I can put it up for, so people can see it.
Okay, great. I thought I was sharing my screen still, sorry. So don't take caffeine too early. Alcohol makes you sleep poorly and dehydrates you as well. So I really recommend avoiding alcohol, and I don't always do this, but for probably 3 days before. You want to avoid anything that's dehydrating, right? So you don't want to sit out in the sun for a long time. You know, for Ironmans, you have to go out to Coeur d'Alene or wherever you're going several times over the course of that whole time. I really recommend going early before it's hot. Don't stay late. Don't spend a ton of time talking to everybody. I mean, enjoy it, but don't overdo it, because that really does contribute to things. And try to not be on your feet a lot. And then so there's a couple of other things that I think are really important on the lines of, you know, caffeine is ibuprofen and NSAIDs. People do not realize how dangerous those drugs are. They're over the counter, but ibuprofen can be a very dangerous drug. It's a very beneficial drug. I love it. It's the best pain medicine, and I for sure use it. But you don't want to use too much, and you probably should not use it at least a couple of days before the race and in the beginning of a race, and potentially not at all. It can cause kidney failure. When you start getting dehydrated, you're predisposed to having kidney failure. And in ultras, I've known of several people who have ended up in what's called rhabdomyolysis and severe kidney failure from, you know, not drinking enough and potentially using ibuprofen. Ibuprofen raises your blood pressure and it raises your body temperature. Again, two things you don't want to do during a race, especially if it's really hot. So, you know, it is a great medicine for inflammation, and I think that's great. If you're worried about inflammation, sometimes I take a baby aspirin the night before because I think it helps with inflammation. And, you know, thinning your blood. There's no there's not research, or a lot of people probably do not do that, but sometimes I do that for the longer distances. With regards to the salt tabs, you have to remember that once you take something in a pill type form, for the most part, it is not going to be absorbed by your body for 4 to 6 hours. So for people who all of a sudden during the run start thinking, oh, I need to take a whole bunch of salt tabs because I've lost all this salt and I can see the salt on my pants, you pretty much are taking it too late. I mean, you can take some, but don't take a lot. Don't overdo it, because what's going to happen is it's just really going to upset your stomach and cause a problem. What you need to do is take those electrolyte tabs and Gatorade or some sort of high electrolyte rich drink the couple of days before, so that your levels are really good and solid as you go into the race. And that's what's going to benefit you the most. I'm not saying don't use them, and some people sweat a lot more and need more sodium than others, but I'm just saying be careful with them. And I think that the root of a lot of people's stomach issues during marathons and any half Ironman distance are related to taking too much caffeine and taking too much in the way of salt tabs, and maybe not enough protein. But that's my opinion. And just kind of what I've experienced from talking to people, and people just don't know, you know, they advertised, here's a caffeine, take a caffeine one every 45 minutes. Well, if you look at how much caffeine or how much sodium you're taking in those, your body just cannot absorb that much. So I really like the Perpetuum because it doesn't have as much sodium. And those like higher sodium things like the Gatorade Endurance, I will drink them sometimes, and I think that they're good things, but I think you just have to know your product and what you're taking and what you're supposed to have during, roughly what you're supposed to have during the period of time that you're racing.
Wow.
So anyway, that's my important comments. Do's and don'ts. Do you have any questions about that? Did I explain that well, or?
I think it's very, very good. Is there, for the audience that might be thinking of a half marathon, is there, I know that it's a lot shorter distance than a full marathon. Of course, it's half, but especially the Ironmans and things like that. What are your recommendations for a person who's doing a half marathon?
For
Nutrition and all of these.
nutrition?
I know
Yeah.
that a lot of them probably the same, but but the nutrition part, probably not as much to worry about.
Right. Yeah, I think like no significant amount of alcohol or caffeine a couple of days before. Get really well hydrated, because what you do in the day, the 24 to 48 hours before is what's going to set you up for good electrolyte balance, good hydration. And then really shy away from ibuprofen, I think, in those 2 days before as well. I think with a half marathon, you can pretty much get away with anything that you want. I think having a caffeine gel at the beginning and during the race, if you really want to have caffeine, that's probably okay. But again, your heart rate's already going to be high in the beginning, and you want to keep it as low as possible for as long as possible to keep that lactate acid out of your legs. So if you're going to use a caffeine gel, maybe at the end of the race, and just like one before the race and one before the race for half. Yeah. One before the race. And then, approximately every 45 minutes is what's usually recommended.
Okay.
That's, yeah. I don't know. Was that helpful?
Very helpful.
I will say, like, one of my worst marathon experiences was my first Boston marathon. My second Boston marathon was probably my second worst experience too. But my first one, I was really training for Ironman, and I wanted to nail my nutrition. And I had read that you need to take a gel every 45 minutes, and you should just do that. Well, I stuck to that because that's what I read. And I didn't so much listen to my body or take into consideration all the things that I've learned. I mean, I have the benefits of knowing how my body reacts to this. And a lot of it's just playing with it and gaining experience. Oh, that really worked. I'm going to try that again this time, but I'm going to do it a little bit different. So I took all these gels. About mile 18, I started puking. I puked 3 times during that race, and it was just sort of miserable. And I've never, besides in Moab 240, had a problem with throwing up again, I don't think, in any race.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and you attribute it to the amount of gels that you took.
Just, overeating them, and my body wasn't probably absorbing them, so.
Do you research before a marathon what's going to be handing out? What are they going to hand out at the race, or you don't worry about that anymore because you've done so many? It's like take your own stuff and not worry about.
I just really like those honey stingers. So I usually have a honey stinger and honey chomps with me, and I know they work for me. Sometimes I eat what's on the course, but sometimes I just eat that too. I wouldn't recommend this, but for that last Windermere one, I don't think I ate anything before or during. Don't do that though. That's not a good idea. I just I was kind of intermittent fasting, and I just didn't feel like I needed it, so I just did that. But don't do that. I wouldn't recommend that. I do a lot of things I don't recommend.
I have a question as far as any of your running friends or anybody that you've coached, or being in the nursing arena athletes who are, or runners or triathletes who are either diabetic or hypoglycemic?
Yeah, so a diabetic athlete, that's really tricky. You can totally do it. And diabetics just usually know their body and their needs. And I think training for somebody who's a diabetic is really important, to be consistent and to learn what your body needs and have backup plans, right? So I can't speak to that too well, because I think that a diabetic has to learn how to manage it themselves. But
Yeah, I've had
yeah.
a few coaching calls with clients who were hypoglycemic or pre-diabetic, and my advice is make sure you stay in contact with your doctor, making sure
Yeah.
you're always doing that. But I do recommend sometimes to seek out those gels that are for diabetics. And I don't know if they have more sugar. I don't know but they can do the research, or they can ask their doctor about these special gels for diabetics.
Yeah, I'll have to research that too. I don't know about that. But I know lots of insulin dependent diabetics are really can do full endurance events and do fine. But it just takes more, doing to understand your body and how it's going to react. But yeah, I can't totally speak to that.
How about ideal weight? Have you ever had a race where you wanted to be at a certain weight for the race, or no, you haven't come up with that issue? Because I know that comes up a lot, is even myself, like the last marathon I ran, is like, man, it would be nice to be like 5 pounds a little lighter, because my
Right.
weight is that much, between 5 and 10 pounds lighter than what I was doing it the last time.
Right. I mean, I think it's always nice to have less weight when you're doing some endurance stuff, but I don't know. I mean, as long as you're in your ideal BMI, body mass index, I think you're probably fine. When we're training really hard is not the time to try to lose weight. And a lot of people that take up an Ironman think, oh, I'm going to lose a lot of weight doing this. And that doesn't necessarily happen. And you really have to keep feeding yourself as you're, putting on muscle and changing your body does change with these activities for sure. But I would be cautious to, I don't know. I mean, being an ideal weight is good. And a lot of runners do try to get their weight down, or cyclists too, try to get their weight down for races. I think you got to really balance that, what you're giving up when you try to lose weight like that.
Okay, yeah, good. Because you are having to take, I guess it would be better to just focus maybe on eating the correct foods,
Yeah, for sure.
measuring every single pound, because taking into consideration that you are going to be putting muscle, and muscle weighs more than fat.
Right. Yeah, I think the idea is to just start burning fat more than you were, and that's where you really have the benefits for your body.
Yeah, because like I said before, one of the things with all these interviews that I've done with some of the clients or prospects is getting down to what's your main reason why you started doing marathons or triathlons. And it's always somehow, after questioning, the main thing was, I want to lose weight. I wanted to lose weight. And that's why they started. Even my sister, because my sister's the one that got me into marathons. And finally, I asked her not too long ago, I said, well, what got you started? Because you're the one that turned me on to marathons. Why did you all of a sudden decided to do a marathon? Because she went straight from not being a runner to signing up for the training to the LA Marathon. But our older brother said, you're getting fat. And that what did it for her. It's like, okay, I'm gonna start running. But she's never been, she must have gained a little bit of weight and it was conscious about it, and that's what got her started.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you will lose weight if you keep doing it.
Okay. Well, that's a good segue for training with purpose. What is I know that in one of your slides you have that you run for certain causes and
Oh, yeah.
what
So I think, well, go ahead. What?
what does purpose go into it? Is there like your big why of why you do the
Yeah.
sport?
Well, I mean, I think everybody has a different reason for doing things. And I really love like the Ironman run because I try to talk to different people and hear their stories when I'm not like racing it. And everybody has a really cool story, whether it's like you want to lose weight or you're doing it because of, you're doing it for somebody. For me, when things get really hard, I try to think of the person that I'm doing the race for, because usually there's a person that I'm doing it for, whether it was, thinking about my husband who passed, or I had a coach. Maybe some of you knew Coach Scott. He was a close friend of mine and he passed. And so I did a race or two, probably thinking about him most of the time, and just realizing that I'm really privileged to be able to do this and a lot of people can't. And if I can keep doing it, I want to do it. And I think that always thinking of the person that can't do what you're doing when it gets hard, and no matter what, you're out there and you're going forward and you're doing something that you maybe didn't think you could do, but you can. And whoever you're thinking of that maybe passed or is sick that can't do it, you're doing it for them because they would want to do it if they could, and so it's a privilege to be out there. And that's what I think about a lot of times when it gets hard.
Okay. Awesome. Is that kind of the same with the training? Is there a special mindset or hacks that we call them for
Training?
Yeah.
I think for me, for training, it's just sort of like it helps me be focused. I feel like when I've worked out in the morning, I definitely have more energy during the day. And yeah, for me, it's just like a little bit mental health, a lot social, most of my really good friends are people I run with, and it's just fun to be with positive people. And I think most people that are training towards something are positive about it, right? They have a positive outlook on life because they're working towards a goal. And if you have a goal, which you should always, first thing you should do is make a goal. When I was in high school cross country, we made a goal that was attainable, a goal that was a little bit higher than what we thought, and then a third goal of just sort of like not performance related, right? And I think that I still do that, not maybe formally, but when I go into a race, like, for me, for Ironman, like I'm turning 50 and I have come close to Kona many times. So for me, my goal is to improve on the bike, which is something I really worked hard on and I'm not very good at, and to qualify for Kona. But ultimately, I just want to enjoy the day. And I love you asked me, one of the things to talk about was like my favorite races. And I love Ironman Coeur d'Alene because I know so many people out there either racing and volunteering and spectating that is so much energy and so much positivity. And I just love that. I mean, even when it's super hot and it's really hard, I just love that. So have a goal.
Oh, yeah. And I know that you mentioned a few things because you answered those questions, and you mentioned having a supportive team, and people who can hold you accountable, joining maybe a club. I know that you've been part of our triathlon club, Team Blaze, but you're also part of Swift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And what he also asked me like what one of my favorite running races is. And Truly my favorite running race is Hood to Coast with my Swift girlfriends. It's everything. It's like they're such great athletes, they're amazing athletes, and a lot of them have been in Olympic trials or professional triathletes and won Ironman. And so it's a really amazing group of athletes, but we're girls, and I learn like how people style their hair, and I don't know those kinds of things, and I learn that every year when I hang out with them. And I don't know, it's just fun. So it's the people, right? I mean, people are your friends, and people are so important. And I
agree.
get that with that race.
That's some of the recommendations that I tell a lot of my clients, is having that consistency is going to revolve around the people around you, the people you hang around with, making it fun. Because if it's not fun, you're not going to be able to stick with it.
Yeah. And, that's a big part of weight loss too. If we're going to go back to weight loss, is lifestyle, right? So, eating healthy all the time, but being around people who make the same choices that you want to model your life after, right? So, if you're around, if you go to Flying Irish or some running club or some triathlon club once a week, and you're connecting with people that are doing like-minded, healthy things that you want to model your life after, you're going to lose weight. You're going to be a happier person. You're going to, it's a lot better than just like sitting at home and watching television all the time and not connecting with people and not doing, making positive lifestyle choices. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that, everything in moderation, but I think just getting out there and being with people that set good examples for you and support you.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit. I know that time is running out.
Yeah.
You are doing the Ironman Coeur d'Alene. You said you're trying to qualify for Kona. This one. You must be super excited about this one. Can you just tell us a little bit of how you got to train for this particular race that's coming up so soon, and what's on your mind, and what can our audience or anybody who listens to this take away from your experience?
Yeah. Well, I feel like in any race, nutrition is one of the most important things, but then there's like all aspects of, swim, bike, run, working on your transitions and that kind of thing. For me this time, I'm not as strong of a cyclist, so I actually hired a coach to help me with cycling this year. And I also used Peloton, which I really enjoyed. And so I just try to work at that goal over the last 6 months of being a better cyclist, to try to get there, because I've been close before, and anything can happen in a day, right? If I don't get it this time, it's not because I didn't try hard, and I know that. And so yeah, I'll probably be a little bit disappointed if I don't get it, because I have been every time that's happened to me before where it's pretty close. But ultimately I had fun and I tried hard, and I met some cool people along the way. I've even met more new people in this process this year, and I've really enjoyed that. So I'm just gonna stay focused. I've actually been sick the last week too. And that's been really hard on my training. And today I ran 2 miles after I biked, and my heart rate was 179 for max. And that's after almost taking the whole entire week off last week. And that's really hard when you're like at your peak time before you're supposed to taper, and you can't do anything because you are so tired. And still, like, I feel like I'm not sick anymore, but I obviously am not recovered because my heart rate is so much higher than normal. Usually, like, I would be doing like my heart rate would be 135 if I was doing a 10-minute mile, but today it was like, seriously, no joke, 170, 179. And so I'm just trying to listen to my body. I'm going to try to hydrate and continue to really rest as much as possible, and not try to overdo any of these taper workouts, so that hopefully in 10 days, I'll be 100% and better. But I will say one mistake I've made when I was really trying hard for Kona back a long time ago. I took like 5 or 6 years off. And, but before I did that, I really tried hard for Kona. I was in the best shape of my life, but I didn't listen to my body with regards to sleep or when I was sick. And I remember one time I was sick for like 4 months and I was really sick and I just kept doing all my workouts, and I would discourage that. You just need to learn to listen to your body. And I've learned that sleep is so important to our longevity, to so many things in our body for preventing illnesses. And so I'm a terrible sleeper. Garmin tells you how you land in things. And I landed in 17% percentile in sleep. So I've really been working on trying to factor in sleep. That's one of my goals now. But I'm 50, so I think it's important to do that. Strength training also helps with longevity, so I'm going to try to do that at some point, which I never lift weights, and you should do that twice a week, but I don't, but I'm going to work on that. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome, great. Well, I opened the mic in case anybody has questions at this time.
Okay.
Some Q&A. If not, just what do you do for weights? What when you do weights, do you belong to a gym?
No, you don't understand. I don't do weights, but I know that I need to. I read all these things about longevity, and the most important thing you can do is strength training, and I don't do it, but it is going to happen sometime before, I don't know when, but I'm going to do it. Never do.
I just bought the book from Peter Attia called it has to do with longevity, and I just, the title of it went away, but yeah, Peter Attia has been doing a lot of work on longevity, and he does a lot of advising strength training.
Yeah, it is. It's really important. That's what the research shows.
How about calisthenics? Any calisthenics?
I think yoga and stretching is really important. And I would love to do it more, and I really do like it. I'm terrible at it, but yeah, my retirement, I plan to do yoga twice a week and do strength training. But right now I'm really busy. That's my excuse. I don't think it's a very good one, but it is.
Okay. Now the curiosity is what's in that cup that's floating around?
Oh, limes, mint, and it's one of those sparkling waters. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah.
Are you taking electrolytes right now in preparation for your race, or no? Because I know you say you don't sweat that much.
Yeah, I just bought a whole bunch of Gatorade for this week, and so I'm gonna be drinking just regular low calorie Gatorade probably. So yeah.
All right then. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
If can we track you? Yeah, obviously you can track probably any athlete.
Yeah, you can track athletes. They don't give out your numbers until you check in, so I don't know what it is, but I'll probably put it on Facebook, and yeah, you can download the Ironman app and track me if you want. No pressure. The one thing about being really vocal about what your goals are is like everyone's there for you, but they also, I mean, run the risk of disappointing yourself and potentially others that were rooting for you. But you just got to put it all out there.
So we wish you all the luck in the world, and I hope I get out there to cheer you on. I definitely plan on being out there, and I look forward to seeing you. And
Thanks.
I wish you the best of luck. I know you're gonna kill it. You're gonna do awesome.
Thank you.
And also, if you get a chance to send those charts, I can go ahead, because if people want to watch this later on, and I can have some of those available, the charts, then they can go ahead and download them.
Yeah. Yep. Sure. I will do that.
Thank you, Gretchen. Have an amazing weekend and get some rest. I hope you get feeling better. And
Thanks.
that you have an awesome race.
Okay. You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.